Hello, and welcome to this in-depth exploration of one of gaming's most iconic stories, Metal Gear Solid 3: Snake Eater. Released in 2004 by Konami and masterminded by the legendary Hideo Kojima, this stealth action masterpiece takes us back to the heart of the Cold War, weaving a story that's equal parts espionage thriller and emotional odyssey. Set in 1964, decades before the events of the original Metal Gear, this game introduces us to Naked Snake, a lone operative whose mission will shape the destiny of nations and his own legacy as the man who will one day become Big Boss. So let's step into the jungle and begin with the operation that sets this all in motion, the Virtuous Mission. Our story begins not in the jungles of Selinoyarsk, but in the tense corridors of Cold War espionage, 2 years before Naked Snake's boots ever touched Soviet soil. It's 1962, and a brilliant Soviet scientist named Nikolai Sokolov stands at the center of a clandestine tug-of-war between superpowers. Sokolov isn't just any researcher, he's the head of the OKB-754 Design Bureau, a mastermind behind some of the Soviet Union's most advanced weaponry. But Sokolov has grown weary of the Kremlin's iron grip. He wants out, and he's not going alone. He demands that his family join him in defecting to the United States. The CIA, sensing an opportunity to gain a valuable asset, assigns a sharp-minded British-born operative named David O to orchestrate the extraction. David was a man of meticulous precision and unflappable calm. He wastes no time. Under his command, the CIA executes a daring operation, first smuggling Sokolov's family over the Berlin Wall, a feat of subterfuge through one of the most heavily guarded borders in the world. Then comes Sokolov himself. His journey is grueling, over 800 kilometers, 500 miles of perilous travel across Eastern Europe, dodging Soviet patrols and informants. By the time he reaches safety, he's a shell of himself, physically exhausted, and checks into a hospital to recover. For a moment, it seems the West has won a quiet victory. But the Cold War is never that simple. On October 16, 1962, the world teeters on the edge of annihilation. U.S. reconnaissance planes spot Soviet ballistic missiles being deployed in Cuba, missiles capable of striking American cities with nuclear warheads. President John F. Kennedy addresses the nation, his voice steady but firm, demanding the Soviets dismantle and remove the weapons immediately. He orders a naval blockade, a quarantine, to halt further shipments, while the Pentagon braces for escalation. The Soviets, defiant, put their forces on secondary alert and keep their missile-laden ships steaming for Cuba. For 13 days, the Cuban Missile Crisis grips the globe in a suffocating standoff. U.S. and Soviet troops mobilize, nuclear silos hum with readiness, and the specter of mutually assured destruction looms large. Behind closed doors, frantic negotiations unfold through the UN Emergency Security Council and shadowy backchannels. Until, on October 28, Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev blinks. The USSR agrees to withdraw its missiles, and the world exhales, narrowly escaping a nuclear holocaust. The official story, fed to the public, is straightforward. The U.S. promises to remove its own intermediate-range ballistic missiles from Turkey in exchange for the Soviet withdrawal from Cuba. It's a neat, diplomatic tit-for-tat. But the truth, as it so often does in this era, lies beneath the surface. The Jupiter missiles in Turkey? Obsolete. The CIA had already slated them for retirement. They were little more than bargaining chips with no real strategic value. The Turkey deal was a smokescreen, a clever ruse to appease global onlookers and rival intelligence agencies. What the Soviets really demanded, and what the U.S. reluctantly conceded, was the return of Nikolai Sokolov. For all the public posturing, Sokolov's fate was the linchpin of the deal. Handed back to the USSR, he's whisked away to his design bureau, forced to resume work on a mysterious weapon under the watchful eyes of his Soviet overseers. By February 1964, testing ramps up, and whispers of this project's progress begin to leak. Enter a mole, a a shadowy figure embedded deep within the Soviet apparatus, feeding intelligence to an enigmatic woman known only as the Boss through her own secretive channels. The reports are chilling. Sokolov's weapon is nearing completion, a game-changer that could tip the balance of power irrevocably in the Soviets' favor. The CIA, alarmed, turns to a newly formed Black Ops unit called FOX, short for Force Operation X. Leading the charge is Major Zero, a code name for David O, now orchestrating a mission of utmost urgency. His chosen operative, a man codenamed Naked Snake, a seasoned soldier trained in stealth, survival, and close-quarters combat. Snake's orders are clear: infiltrate the dense wilderness of Selinoyarsk, a remote Soviet region, locate Sokolov, and extract him with a razor-thin window of 3 to 4 hours. What Snake doesn't know is that Zero has deployed a covert support team from Fox's sister unit, XOF, into the field ahead of him. Operating in the shadows, XOF scouts Sokolov's precise location and relays intel back through Zero, all while maintaining absolute secrecy, even from Snake himself. Their directive is strict: observe, assist from afar, but do not interfere. The mission, dubbed the Virtuous Mission, kicks off with a logistical hiccup that's pure Naked Snake. Aboard an MC-130E combat Talon aircraft soaring 30,000 feet above the Pakistani border, Snake savors a Havana cigar, its rich aroma a fleeting comfort as the plane depressurizes for his jump. Major Zero's voice crackles over the radio, sharp and exasperated, urging him to don his pressurized mask. Snake complies at the last second, stubbing out his cigar with a grin. Then, in a historic moment, he leaps, executing the world's first halo jump, a high-altitude, low-opening freefall, plummeting at 200 kilometers per hour through minus 46 degrees Celsius air. He avoids frostbite by sheer grit, deploying his parachute at the final moment to glide into an unforgiving jungle. On the ground, Snake's lifeline is his support radio team. Major Zero, temporarily codenamed Major Tom for this op, provides tactical oversight, his clipped British accent a steady presence. Paramedic, Fox's medical expert, chimes in with survival tips and wry commentary. But there's a third voice, one that stirs something deep in Snake. The Boss, his mentor, his guiding light, and the woman who vanished from his life 5 years ago without a word. Hearing her again reignites a mix of relief and unresolved questions. But Snake pushes it aside. There's a job to do. Unbeknownst to him, XOF's intel team lurks in the periphery, feeding the Boss and Zero critical updates while staying invisible. Snake acclimates to the humid, predator-filled jungle, his senses sharp as he navigates towards Rasvet, the abandoned facility where Sokolov awaits. A rickety rope bridge marks his path, but a Soviet guard stands watch. Through his binoculars, Snake spots a hornet's nest dangling above the soldier. An opportunity. A single shot from a silenced pistol sends the nest crashing down, unleashing a swarm that sends the guard flailing. Snake slips across, weaving through the crumbling ruins of Rasvet, past KGB patrols and into a dilapidated cabin at the perimeter's edge. Inside, he finds Sokolov, haggard and frantic, torching documents in a desperate bid to keep his work from falling into the wrong hands. Snake announces his intent to rescue him, but Sokolov's relief is tinged with dread. He warns Snake of a brewing storm, an anti-Khrushchev faction within the Soviet Union, led by GRU Colonel Volgin, plans to seize power. Volgin, a hulking figure with a sadistic streak and a penchant for lightning-charged brutality, aims to oust Khrushchev and install Brezhnev and Kosygin in his place. Sokolov's weapon is the key to Volgin's coup, and he's coming for it. Time is running short. Snake and Sokolov move for the extraction point, but the jungle erupts in chaos. KGB operatives ambush them, weapons drawn, only to be cut down by a new arrival, Major Ocelot, a young, arrogant GRU officer commanding the elite Ocelot unit. Ocelot mistakes Snake for the Boss, his bravado faltering when he realizes his error. Undeterred, he orders his men to encircle Snake and Sokolov. Twirling his revolver with a flourish, Ocelot attempts a flashy execution, ejecting the first bullet by hand. But the gun jams at a critical moment. Snake seizes the opening, his close-quarters combat training kicking in. With precise, brutal efficiency, he disarms and disables the Ocelot unit, leaving them sprawled in the dirt as Sokolov bolts for cover. The virtuous mission hangs by a thread, and Snake's first taste of Selenoyar's danger is only the beginning. As Snake and Sokolov hurry across the swaying rope bridge, the air thick with the buzz of the jungle insects and the weight of their narrow escape, Sokolov's gaze shifts upward. He points a trembling finger toward a jagged mountain peak piercing the horizon. There, shrouded in haze, looms the culmination of his coerced genius, the Shagohod. This isn't just a weapon, it's a monstrosity, a towering tank bristling with machinery, capable of launching nuclear missiles across vast distances with devastating precision. Sokolov's voice cracks as he explains its significance. If completed, he warns, the Shagohod will shatter the fragile stalemate of the Cold War, igniting a new global conflict, a third world war that could engulf the planet in flames. He confesses that the Soviet government forced him into this project, threatening his life and his family's if he refused. His defection was meant to kill the Shagohod in its cradle. But now, with his capture imminent, that hope hangs by a thread. Their moment of respite ends abruptly as a figure emerges from the shadows ahead. The boss. Snake's heart lifts at the sight of her, his mentor, and the woman who shaped him into the soldier he is. 5 years of silence had left a void, but her presence now promises answers, maybe even reunion. Yet something's off. Her stance is cold, her expression blank, unreadable. Before Snake can process it, the truth crashes down. The boss has defected to the Soviet Union. She's no longer his ally. She's an enemy. With chilling efficiency, her elite Cobra unit, war-hardened operatives forged in the crucible of World War II, swoop in, seizing Sokolov like a prize. The boss steps forward, her voice steady as she declares Sokolov, along with 2 Davy Crockett miniature nuclear shells, a gift to her new Soviet comrades. Snake stands frozen, disbelief warring with betrayal, as the jungle seems to close in around him. The tension escalates with the arrival of Colonel Volgin, a towering brute of a man whose very presence crackles with menace. Volgin, a GRU officer with ambitions far beyond his rank, strides onto the bridge, his uniform straining against a frame that seems to radiate violence. Electricity dances at his fingertips, a literal manifestation of his sadistic power. He surveys the scene with a predator's grin, and then turns to the boss, demanding she eliminate Snake after the latter refuses a twisted offer to join their cause. The boss doesn't hesitate. In a blur of motion, she delivers a vertical arm chop, snapping Snake's left elbow with a sickening crunch. Before he can even react, she hurls him off the bridge into the churning river below. As he falls, Snake snatches her bandana, a fleeting memento of the woman he once knew, fully aware she spared him. She could have ended him right there, but she didn't. The question of why lingers as he plummets. Snake survives the fall, crashing into the shallows with a body battered but unbroken. 2 hours later, hidden in the undergrowth, he tends to a litany of injuries. A broken left rib, lacerations across his upper arms, right elbow and abdomen, and that shattered left elbow, courtesy of the boss. Paramedic's voice crackles through his codec, guiding him through field medicine with a mix of professionalism and dry wit, splinting bones, stitching wounds, keeping him alive. As he works, a distant roar draws his gaze skyward. 5 prototype Hind A gunships slice through the clouds, their rotors thrumming as they ferry the Shagohod away from Sokolov's ruined facility. The boss stands among them, a silhouette against the fading light, her defection now sealed with action. On another helicopter, Volgin's attention shifts to a new captive, Tatiana, a striking female KGB officer dragged before him by his troops. Her defiance catches his eye, and when he and Ocelot speculate she might be Sokolov's lover, Volgin's interest deepens. He calls her a fine catch, his tone dripping with menace. A search reveals a hidden kiss of death, a concealed weapon disguised as lipstick, hinting at her own dangerous secrets. Volgin, now in possession of Sokolov, the Shagohod, and the Davy Crockett's, decides the OKB-754 research facility has outlived its usefulness. With a sneer, he unveils one of the nuclear shells and its launcher, intent on testing it then and there. Ocelot, ever the wild card, steps forward, his youthful arrogance giving way to genuine horror. He pleads with Volgin to reconsider. Nuking their own countrymen, even rivals, crosses a line. Volgin brushes him off with a cold laugh, claiming the world will pin the blame on the boss, not him. "Remember the Alamo," he mutters, a bizarre taunt, before firing. The explosion obliterates OKB-754 in a blinding flash, a mushroom cloud rising over the jungle as Snake, miles away, watches in stunned silence, prepping for extraction via the Fulton recovery system. The detonation sends shockwaves far beyond the jungle. Soviet radar had clocked the MC-130E in their airspace during the Virtuous mission, and now, with a nuclear blast on their soil, Premier Khrushchev assumes the worst. The United States has attacked. The international fallout is immediate and brutal. Snake, barely patched up, finds himself detained by U.S. military police in an ICU, his role in the boss's defection under tense scrutiny. Interrogators hound him with questions, his fate teetering toward execution. Key CIA figures, including some tied to Fox, are placed under house arrest, paranoia spreading that more defections might follow. The world inches toward war until a tense call between Khrushchev and President Lyndon B. Johnson changes the game. Khrushchev, his grip on power weakening under pressure from the hawkish Red Army, demands proof of America's innocence to avoid a retaliatory strike. Johnson, desperate to de-escalate, agrees to a radical plan. Snake and the Fox unit are redeployed for a new mission, Operation Snake Eater. Their goal: eliminate the boss, neutralize Volgin's faction, and destroy the Shagohod, proving the US has no hand in this disaster. Volgin's reckless nuke leaves Rasvet, a crumbling outpost in Selenoyarsk, tainted by the fallout, rendering it a ghost town free of Soviet presence. This makes it the perfect rendezvous point for Snake's return, where he's set to meet Adam, a codenamed ally who will aid his infiltration. Meanwhile, Volgin's brutality festers. Later, during Operation Snake Eater, he interrogates and murders Alexander Granin, a rival scientist with knowledge of a mole in Volgin's ranks. Ocelot, witnessing this, clashes with Volgin again, his disgust boiling over. He cites the Davy Crockett attack as proof of Volgin's unhinged methods, but Volgin, smug in his control of Groznygrad, his fortress stronghold, mocks Ocelot's protests. "Report me to the authorities," he taunts, his arrogance unshaken. For Snake, still bearing the scars of betrayal and the weight of the world on edge, the path ahead is clear. Infiltrate, survive, and end this nightmare, starting with the woman who once called him her disciple. Thus, Operation Snake Eater is born. Snake's objectives are daunting. Infiltrate Selenoyarsk once more, eliminate the boss and her Cobra unit, rescue Nikolai Sokolov again, and destroy Volgin and his nuclear-armed Shagohod. The US isn't alone in this gamble. The KGB, eager to see Volgin toppled, offers aid, access to a communications satellite, and intel from two defectors, codenamed Adam and Eva. These former NSA agents, who crossed to the Soviet Union in 1960, are now embedded deep in GRU ranks. Adam, in particular, promises an escape route once the mission's done. The clock is ticking, and on August 30, 1964, at 11:30 p.m., Snake boards a Lockheed D-21 drone launched from an N-21 aircraft 30,000 feet above the Arctic Ocean. The northern route, skirting the North Pole, is a necessity. The Virtuous mission's fallout has turned their original airspace into a fortress of Soviet defenses. Two MiGs nearly intercept them, their engines roaring in pursuit, but the M-21 evades, ejecting Snake into the night sky. He plummets toward the jungle, the drone crashing behind him in a fiery sacrifice. Snake's radio crackles to life with familiar voices. Major Zero, now his lifeline to strategy. Paramedic, ever ready with medical know-how. And a new addition, Mr. Sigint, a tech wizard whose expertise on weapons, like the Shagohod, will prove invaluable. Unknown to Snake, and perhaps everyone but Zero, a darker shadow follows. XOF Commander Skullface, a ruthless operative shrouded in secrecy, has been deployed as Zero's insurance policy. His orders? To trail Snake, assist covertly, and erase any trace of failure, no matter the cost. Snake lands in the jungle, the air heavy with humidity, and the distant growl of predators, oblivious to the phantom at his back. His first task is to reach Rasvet, the abandoned factory now eerily quiet under a shroud of nuclear fallout from Volgan's Davy Crockett. It's here he's set to meet Adam, but fate has other plans. As Snake moves through the undergrowth, a figure steps into his path. The boss. Her presence is a jolt, her soft smile disarming. "Looks like death wasn't ready for you yet," she says, her voice warm, almost tender. "That arm still hurt?" For a fleeting moment, Snake sees the mentor he adored. Then her expression hardens, her eyes flashing with warning. In seconds, she closes the gap, her close-quarters combat mastery overwhelming him. A flurry of strikes, and Snake's on the ground, winded and humbled. She looms over him, her tone icy. Abandon the mission, or die by her hand next time. To drive the point home, she dismantles his gun with surgical precision, then turns her attention skyward. A well-placed shot downs the circling D-21 drone, its wreckage alerting nearby Soviet patrols. As a final insult, she spurs her horse forward, its hoof crashing down on Snake's hand. A sharp pain, but not crippling. She rides off, leaving him battered, but defiant. Snake presses on, slipping into Rasvet's crumbling walls to await Adam. Inside, the stillness shatters with the roar of a motorcycle. A woman dismounts, lithe, confident, her eyes sharp behind a cascade of blonde hair. She introduces herself as Eva, Adam's partner in the KGB, sent in his stead. Snake is wary. She can't provide the passphrase "la-le-lu-le-lo," a red flag that sets his instincts buzzing. Before he can press her, GRU soldiers burst from the shadows, weapons raised. Eva reacts faster than Snake expects. Her bike screeches into motion, scattering the ambush with deadly precision. She saves his life, and that's enough for now. Trust, fragile as it is, begins to take root. They retreat into the factory's depths where Eva hands Snake's tools for the mission ahead. A scientist disguised to blend into Sokolov's world, a custom M1911 pistol, and his recovered MK-22 from the Virtuous mission. She urges him to rest. The jungle, at night, is a death trap without a guide. Snake relents, settling into a corner as Eva stands watch. Under the cover of darkness, she slips to her bike, retrieving a briefcase. A vacuum radio hums to life, and she transmits a coded message to her superiors. Her true loyalty's a mystery Snake can't yet fathom. For now, he sleeps, the weight of betrayal and duty pressing down, unaware that Operation Snake Eater has only begun to bare its teeth. The dawn breaks over Rasvet, a faint glow filtering through the jungle canopy as naked Snake stirs from his uneasy rest. Eva's motorcycle hums to life, her silhouette sharp against the morning haze as she prepares to depart. But the quiet shatters with the crunch of boots on gravel. GRU soldiers, led by the unmistakable swagger of Major Ocelot, close in. Snake's instincts kick in, their numbers make sneaking past a long shot. He motions Eva to hide, her form vanishing in the factory's shadows, and turns to face the threat. One by one, he dismantles Ocelot's unit, silent shots and precise takedowns dropping them into the dirt. The air grows still until Snake spots Ocelot himself, his revolver gleaming as he pins Eva against a rickety platform. Ocelot's surprise flickers. A woman. he mutters, sniffing the air. Perfume. Intriguing. He swings his new toy towards Snake, pulling the trigger with flair, only to freeze as it clicks empty. 6 bullets already spent. A rookie miscalculation. Eva seizes the moment, wrenching free and kicking Ocelot off the edge. He tumbles, cursing, and scrambles away. Eva draws her own weapon, aiming to erase their tracks, but Snake stays her hand. Killing Ocelot now would only draw more heat. She nods, urgency in her eyes. I need to beat him back to Volgin, she says, revving her bike and roaring off into the jungle. Snake sets his eyes on the same destination. The jungle swallows him whole. The wilds of Selenoyarsk test Snake at every turn. He comes across a jagged crevice splitting the earth, and there, on the far side, waits Ocelot, his revolver reloaded and his pride stinging. Behind Snake, armed soldiers block retreat, their rifles glinting in the sun. What unfolds is a duel straight out of a western. Bullets ricochet off rocks, tensions thick as the humid air. But nature intervenes. A swarm of hornets descend, a buzzing cloud that engulfs them both. Ocelot flees, swatting wildly, while Snake, blinded and stung, drops into the crevice below. He lands hard in a cavern, its damp walls echoing with drips and distant growls. Navigating the maze, he stumbles toward an exit, only to find it guarded by the Pain, a hulking Cobra unit member whose skin crawls with hornets he commands like a living shield. The Pain's laughter booms as insects swarm, but Snake adapts, dodging stings and landing blows until the Cobra falls, his hornets scattering. Nursing fresh wounds with paramedics' guidance, Snake emerges into daylight, an aqueduct ahead, leading to a warehouse. From a vantage point, Snake scopes the dock below. A grim tableau unfolds. Colonel Volgin, his fists crackling with electricity, looms over Sokolov, who cowers beside Tatiana, who looks like Eva in disguise, her poise masking fear. The boss stands nearby, her Cobra lieutenants, the End, and the Fear at her side. Volgin's temper flares as Sokolov resists. He grabs Tatiana, jolting her with a surge that draws a pained gasp. Ocelot saunters in, spinning his revolver, and aims at Sokolov in a reckless game of Russian roulette. The boss intervenes, slapping the gun away with a scowl. Enough, she snaps, chastising his antics at the crevice. She delivers grim news. The Pain is dead. Volgin shrugs, and as the rain begins to fall, he drags Tatiana off to entertain him indoors. The Fear departs to hunt Snake, leaving the dock empty. Undeterred, Snake slips into the warehouse, his path clear. Inside the research lab, Snake dons Eva's scientist disguise, white coat, clipped stride, blending into the sterile halls of the facility. He finds Dr. Alexander Granin in the main office, a disheveled genius nursing a bottle of vodka. Granin's bitterness spills out. Volgin's funding flows to Sokolov Shagohod, sidelining his own brainchild, a bipedal tank he calls Metal Gear, a revolutionary link between infantry and artillery. He dreams of sending its blueprints to a friend in the US, a defiant middle finger to Volgin's priorities. Over the bottle, Granin reveals a deeper truth, the philosopher's legacy, a vast fortune amassed by a secret cabal of American, Soviet, and Chinese power brokers after World War I. Volgin inherited it through shadowy means, using its wealth to bankroll the Shagohod, Groznygrad, and his private army. Granin sees Snake as a chance to tip the scales, rescue Sokolov, undermine Volgin, and let Metal Gear rise. He hands Snake a keycard for a locked door in the warehouse, whispering of a secret tunnel beneath Groznygrad. Snake pockets the keycard, his mission sharpening. The journey back is no stroll. In the jungle, the Fear strikes. A cobra with a stealth suit and spider-like agility, his crossbow bolts tipped with venom. The fight is a blur of movement, Snake dodging, striking, enduring the burn of poison until the Fear collapses. At the warehouse, Eva's voice crackles over the codec. She provides Snake with a meeting place and says that she'll bring the real key to the Groznygrad tunnel. Granin's card, it seems, won't cut it. And she warns of the end, an ancient sniper lurking in the forest. There, under towering trees, Snake faces a masterclass in patience. The End's rifle cracks from unseen perches, his stamina defying his century of age. Hours pass in a deadly game of cat and mouse, but Snake's precision prevails, felling the old warrior. The path opens to the mountains. Snake works his way to the top, and Eva awaits, her bike parked amid crumbling stone. She hands Snake the tunnel key and details their escape. She has a Whig aircraft stashed away. Sokolov's in Groznygrad's west wing, behind layers of security. Snake will need to impersonate GRU Major Rykov to get close. Her sleeves slip, revealing scars. Volgin's handiwork. Snake probes. Does he suspect you? If he knew I was a spy, I'd be dead, she retorts, brushing off the marks as sadistic whims. A gut scar catches his eye. Not from NSA days, he guesses, but she deflects, her smile turning coy. She leans in, a seduction Snake resists. Their moment cut short by a gunshot echoing from below. They step to the cliff's edge, peering through rain-slicked air at Groznygrad. Eva points out its sprawl. Hangars, barracks, the lab, while Snake's scope locks on Volgin. The colonel pummels an oil drum, bullets wedged in his fists like brass knuckles, blood pooling beneath. With a final blow, he sends it skyward. Granin's broken body spills out, suspected of spying, silenced brutally. Eva mounts her bike, off to play her double game, leaving Snake to descend. The tunnel awaits, but not without a fight. The Fury, another one of the Cobra unit, emerges, a cosmonaut turned pyromaniac, his flamethrower roaring. Flames lick the stone as Snake battles through heat and smoke, landing the killing blow. The Fury's corpse erupts, fire chasing Snake deeper until the tunnel collapses in a rumble of earth. He emerges, battered, Groznygrad's shadow looming closer, the weight of his mission heavier than ever. Snake emerges from the collapsed tunnel, the air thick with dust and the faint echo of the Fury's flames fading behind him. Above, a rusted ladder beckons, its rungs cold against his palms as he ascends into the belly of Groznygrad. The fortress hums with activity. Soldiers patrol, engines rumble, and the distant clank of machinery signals the Shagohod's presence. His first task is to locate Major Rykov, a wiry GRU officer with a smug air and Volgin's favor. Snake stalks the corridors, his senses razor sharp, until he corners Rykov in a quiet corner. A swift chokehold, and Rykov slumps. Snake strips his uniform, donning it with a mask from the mission's outset. Now it's his ticket, deeper into the lion's den. Disguised, he moves towards Sokolov's lab, the weight of his task pressing down. In a sterile room lined with blueprints and flickering lights, Snake finds Sokolov, haggard, his eyes darting as Tatiana slips a film canister from his grasp and exits. Sokolov spots Snake, recognition flickering. "The man from the CIA," he mutters, voice low. He unveils Phase 2 of the Shagohod, a rocket booster engine strapped to the tank, pushing it to 300 miles an hour, extending its nuclear reach from 2,500 miles to over 6,000. From anywhere in the Soviet Union, it could strike any U.S. target. Volgin plans to mass-produce it within 24 hours, arming the Eastern Bloc and shattering the Cold War's fragile balance into an all-out nuclear chaos. Snake presses for a weakness. Sokolov suggests C3 explosive. Its precision could gut the beast. Then he drops a bombshell. Tatiana isn't his lover, but his supervisor, forced to play Volgin's paramour. Defeated, Sokolov begs Snake to protect his family. He won't leave, certain Khrushchev will banish him to the gulags, or the US will exploit him for their own war machines. Their escape plan unravels as Volgin storms in, his bulk filling the doorway. His eyes pierce Snake's disguise instantly. "Nice try," he growls, firing 2 shots into Sokolov's knees. The scientist crumples, screaming as the boss strides in, ripping off Snake's mask and slamming him to the floor with a single brutal strike. Volgin waves her off, his fist itching for vengeance. Rykov's beating demands repayment. What follows is a merciless thrashing. Volgin's electrified punches sear Snake's flesh, bones creaking under the onslaught. Bloodied and limp, Snake is dragged to Groznygrad prison, the iron door slamming shut behind him. Consciousness returns in fragments. Snake hangs by his wrists, a plastic bag suffocating his face, muffling Volgin's guttural roars as he pummels Sokolov nearby. A final sickening crack, and Sokolov falls silent. Dead, or so it seems. Volgin turns to Snake, dousing him with water, the liquid amplifying the electric jolts that follow. "What does the CIA know?" he bellows. "Are they after the philosopher's legacy?" The boss intervenes, her voice cutting through. "He's mine. I trained him. Torture won't break him." Volgin smirks, revealing the legacy's vault beneath the fortress. When a transmitter tumbles from Snake's pocket, suspicion flares. The boss steps forward after a beat, claiming it was her, a lure for the Cobras to track him. Volgin's unconvinced. He demands proof of her loyalty. "Cut out his eyes." She yanks the bag off Snake's head, their gaze locking. Hers falters, a flicker of something human. As her knife rises, Tatiana lunges, pulling her back. "He suffered enough!" Ocelot spins, accusing Tatiana of spying. He juggles 3 revolvers, one loaded, mimicking his dockside game, and fires 6 times at random. Snake, desperate, swings his bound body into Ocelot, knocking a gun skyward. It fires as Ocelot catches it, the bullet tearing through Snake's right eye, a muzzle burn searing the socket. His scream echoes, Tatiana's horror mirroring his pain. The boss reprimands Ocelot's recklessness as Volgin storms out, dragging Tatiana with him. Ocelot lingers, crouching near Snake. "Watching you endure that, it changed me," he admits, slipping the transmitter back into a wound with a sly grin. Alliance or taunt, Snake can't tell. Alone, the boss loads a revolver with 1 bullet, fires it into Snake's leg, and slips him the unloaded single-action army, a silent lifeline. As she exits, Tatiana returns, Eva unmasked. She whispers of his gear stashed nearby, and an escape route, urging him to break free. Commander Skullface, lurking unseen, toggles his radio, lying to Zero about a jam. His hatred for Snake festers, a vow of suffering sworn in silence. In his cell, a guard slides Snake a fork. Gritting his teeth, he digs out the leg bullet, a fake death pill, a trick from the boss. Johnny, the guard, chats idly, family, the Cold War's absurdity, old alliances between their nations. He hands Snake his SIG gas spray gun, mistaking it for Smoke's, but won't unlock the cell despite their rapport. Snake bides his time, then escapes, lock picked, emerging into the Grozngrad's underbelly. Eva's codec call crackles through. Volgin has sealed the escape route. With Ocelot and his unit in pursuit, Snake dives into the sewers, their boots pounding above. Ocelot corners him at a drainage waterfall, spinning a single bullet into his revolver. Click. No shot. Snake leaps, plunging into the river below, the current dragging him under. Near death, a spectral figure rises. The sorrow, the Cobra's fallen psychic, his mournful gaze, piercing. The river begins to transform. The souls of Snake's kills drift past, accusing, pleading, a parade of guilt. Gasping, he crushes the revival pill in his tooth, jolting awake underwater, choking as he claws to the surface. Washed downstream, he crawls to the bank and contacts Eva, who directs him to a cave behind a waterfall. There, Eva greets him, her face softening as she offers an eye patch for his ruined eye, a black shield for a new scar. They sit, the roar of water, a curtain, and muse on life after the mission. Freedom, perhaps, or just survival? A butterfly flutters near. Snake reaches, but his depth perception's gone, fingers closing on air. Eva hands him C3 that she stole, outlining the plan. The Shagohod's hangar holds 4 liquid fuel tanks. Rig each with C3 to obliterate it. She snaps a photo with her button camera. Insurance, she teases, then departs. Snake treks through the tunnel, climbing a ladder to Groznygrad northwest corner. But as he emerges, a BTR-152 APC rolls over the manhole, its tire pinning the lid. The gate's locked, the fortress a cage. Snake's trapped, and the Shagohod's waiting. Trapped in Groznygrad's northwestern corner, Snake maneuvers through the fortress's labyrinthian sprawl. The rumble of machinery and barked orders fill the air. He slips into the Shagohod's hangar, a cavernous space of steel and shadow, dominated by the hulking tank and its 4 liquid fuel tanks. Moving with practiced stealth, he plants C3 charges on 3 of them, the plastique cold against his fingers. At the 4th, he pauses, molding the explosive into a butterfly, a fleeting nod to Eva's earlier jest. He tosses it skyward, catches it with a faint smirk, and sets it in place, arming the timer. But as the seconds tick, a shout pierces the silence, Volgin's voice, sharp and commanding. Snake spins to see the colonel, Ocelot at his side, and Eva crumpled on the floor, her disguise as Tatiana shattered. The boss emerges from the shadows, disarming Snake with the flick of her wrist, his weapons clattering against the concrete. Volgin's grin widens as he reveals Eva's betrayal, caught sneaking near the underground vault, clutching a microfilm of the philosopher's legacy. Snake demands answers. What is this legacy? Volgin's eyes gleam as he explains. It's a fortune beyond imagination, amassed during World War II by the philosophers, a secret triumvirate of power brokers from Russia, America, and China. This cash hoard fueled the war's darkest innovations, the atomic bomb, rocket technology, even the Cobra unit's creation. After the war's chaos, Volgin's father, a shadowy figure tied to the philosophers, schemed to seize it for the Soviets, laundering it through banks in Switzerland, Australia, and Hong Kong. The microfilm Eva stole lists every transaction, a roadmap to billions. Volgin inherited this prize and built his empire. Groznygrad, Granin's lab, and Sokolov's Shagohod, all on blood money. He turned to the boss through the philosopher's lingering spy network, luring her defection to secure the tank. The Cold War split the world, he says, but with the legacy and Shagohod, he'll mend it under his fist. Handing the microfilm to the boss, he commands her to guard it well. She exits with Eva in tow, but not before a sly glance at Volgin. He might have planted something. Volgin turns to Snake, electricity crackling in his fingertips. A once-in-a-lifetime fight, he taunts. Shedding his coat, the hangar becomes their arena. Volgin's raw power against Snake's grit. Punches land like thunderclaps, sparks flying as Snake dodges and strikes. Midway, Volgin senses defeat and roars at Ocelot. Shoot him! Ocelot hesitates, his revolvers still. I promised the boss I wouldn't, he snaps. Volgin's fury erupts. A beam of lightning lashes out, but Ocelot parries with gunfire, his voice cold. Fight like a man, Volgin. A PA system blares, bombs detected, evacuation ordered. Volgin sends Ocelot to find them, and though he balks, Ocelot complies, flashing Snake a subtle gesture. 2 fingers raised, a nod of respect. Alone, Snake pummels Volgin, blood spattering the floor as the colonel collapses, beaten but not broken. The C3 detonates, the hangar erupting in flames. Snake bolts, finding Eva outside, her bike ready. The wig's at the lake, she says. Snake hesitates. The boss? And Eva nods. She's waiting there. Their escape ignites chaos. The Shagohod smashes through the hangar's ruins, Volgin at the helm, gloating. No escape! GRU soldiers swarm, motorcycles roaring, bullets zinging as Eva guns the bike. She reveals her backup plan, C3 rigged on the bridge to the jungle. "Shoot it when we cross," she shouts. Ocelot joins the chase, his bike weaving dangerously close until falling debris nearly claims him. Snake yanks him to safety, a fleeting truce. At the runway, the Shagohod's boosters flare, Volgin pushing it to 300 miles an hour. Ocelot swerves, blinded by exhaust, cursing Volgin's spite, payback for his defiance. Snake and Eva dodge the tank's charge, reaching the bridge. A well-aimed shot triggers the C3, and the structure collapses in a deafening roar. The Shagohod plummets into the abyss. Or so they think. Smoke clears, and the tank's front claws cling to the broken edge. Volgin's laughter echoing. Snake and Eva circle back, targeting its exposed rear with RPGs and gunfire, the C3's damage laid bare. The Shagohod groans, disabled at last. Volgin staggers out, ripping cables free, his body surging with current to puppet the wreck. Snake fires again. Volgin drops, defiant. Then the sky cracks, a lightning bolt strikes, igniting his bullet bandoliers. He burns, an inferno of his own making, presumed dead as the storm rages. With the threat quelled, Snake and Eva race for the Wig, pursued by relentless soldiers on bikes and flying platforms. Eva pushes the motorcycle to its limit, but a misstep sends them airborne, crashing hard, a tree branch piercing Eva's side just above the hip. Snake lands battered, lacerated knee, fractured rib, but drags himself to her, tending to her deep cuts and shoulder gash. They limp through the forest, evading patrols scouring the wreck. Snake steadying Eva as her strength wanes. The lake glints ahead, and the Wig waiting. But Snake pauses at a field of white flowers, their petals stark against the dusk. He knows the boss is there, her presence a pull he can't ignore. Leaving Eva to prep the plane, he steps into the blooms, ready to face the end. A fierce wind sweeps through, scattering white petals across the field like a fleeting snowstorm. Snake stands alone, the lake's edge shimmering behind him. When the boss steps from the gust, her presence as commanding as ever, a Davy Crockett launcher slung over her shoulder. Her voice cuts through the gale, steady and resolute. She speaks of her dream, to mend a fractured world, to reunite the philosophers using their legacy. The Cold War tore her Cobra unit apart, and she's carried that wound ever since. She recounts November 1, 1951, at a Nevada test site, her body scarred by radiation. Then, in 1960, the US sent her into space, a secret mission aboard a craft unshielded from cosmic rays. Her prior exposure made her expendable. Gazing at Earth from orbit, borders vanished, and she saw the space race for what it was. Another futile contest, like the arms race. She yearns for a 21st century where humanity sees Earth as one, free of East, West, communism, or capitalism, a world whole again. Her tale deepens. In 1961, she was dispatched to Cuba's Bay of Pigs, a CIA-backed invasion masked as a Cuban exile return. The US betrayed them, withholding air support, leaving her to watch helplessly as the exiles fell to Castro's forces. That betrayal, from a nation she'd bled for, drove her underground. A year later, in Selinoyovsk, she faced the sorrow. Her lover, and Cobra comrade, in a fight to the death. He sacrificed himself, demanding she pull the trigger to finish her mission. Unzipping part of her suit, she reveals a snake-shaped scar coiling down her chest and abdomen. June 1944, Normandy. Pregnant with the sorrow's child, she gave birth on the battlefield, only for the philosophers to snatch the boy away. Her son, lost to their machinations. The philosophers, she explains, were once visionaries, but their founders died in the 1930s. Today's heirs are soulless, war incarnate. Her father, a high-ranking member, taught her their darkest secrets, how each conflict shifts the era, sparking endless wars in a cycle they perpetuate. For that, they killed him. She's their last true child. Tears streak her face as she thanks Snake for hearing her soul laid bare. something she's never done. Over the radio, she orders MiG-21s to bomb the field in 10 minutes. She then loads her Patriot, its barrel gleaming. "Make this the greatest fight of our lives," she commands. What follows is an epic clash. Snake's close-quarters combat against her mastery, bullets and blows traded amid swirling petals. Time slows as Snake lands the final strike, bringing her down. They collapse together, breath ragged. In her final moments, she hands Snake the Philosopher's Legacy microfilm and the Patriot gun. Her voice a whisper. "There's only room for one boss, and one Snake." She begs him to end it, to complete his mission. Snake hesitates, the gun trembling in his grip, her eyes locked on his. After an agonizing pause, he fires. The shot echoes, and the boss falls still, her horse nuzzling her body in mournful silence as the petals turn crimson around them. A battlefield stained with loss. Snake boards the Wig, Eva at the controls, but their escape is interrupted. Ocelot streaks alongside the plane, leaping aboard with a wild grin, challenging Snake to one last duel. They grapple, Ocelot's newfound close-quarters combat mimicked from Snake, nearly overwhelming him. Then, the boss's words from the Virtuous Mission echo. "Remember the basics." Snake steadies, outmatching Ocelot with precision. Ocelot draws 2 revolvers, loading a blank, and demands Snake's real name. "John," Snake admits. They draw. Fire. A standoff resolved without blood. Ocelot, satisfied, salutes and leaps into the lake below. MiG-21s close in, guns hot, but veer off at Khrushchev's command, leaving the Wig to soar free. In an Alaskan safe house, Snake and Eva share a night of fleeting warmth. Morning dawns cold. Eva's gone, leaving an audio reel. Her voice spills the truth. She's a Chinese-American spy sent by the People's Liberation Army to reclaim the legacy. The real Adam and Eva were men, NSA defectors, and she meant to kill Adam, but he never appeared. Since the Soviets abandoned China's nuclear ambitions in 1959, her nation lagged. The legacy and Shagohod data will vault them ahead. Snake's fist clenched, betrayal stinging, until he finds the microfilm, still in his pocket, not the copy Eva claimed. Confusion tempers his rage as she continues. A philosopher agent from their charm schools, she fooled all but the boss, her old instructor. Ordered to kill Snake, she couldn't, bound by a promise to the boss. Eva unveils the mission's heart. The boss didn't betray America. She died for it. A pawn in the U.S. scheme to seize the legacy and destroy the Shagohod. Volgan's Davy Crockett forced a rewrite. She couldn't return alive or take her own life. Snake had to end her. History would brand her a traitor, a monster. Her truth buried, known only to him. The real self-destructs, smoke curling as Eva rides off on a Triumph motorcycle, leaving Snake with her sacrifice. At the White House, President Lyndon B. Johnson awards Snake the Distinguished Service Cross and the title, Big Boss. His handshake is limp, his gaze distant. The CIA director extends a hand. Big Boss turns away, crushed. He ignores Major Zero and the Fox crew, their voices hollow. A DoD official pitches an Army infiltration unit like Fox, but Big Boss is already gone, spirit broken. At Arlington National Cemetery, he kneels at the boss's grave, laying her Patriot gun and flowers beside it. Tears fall as he salutes, her final words etched into his heart. Ocelot, meanwhile, schemes. To the KGB chief director, he reports Grozhnygrad's ruin and Khrushchev's fall, hinting at blackmail leverage over America. Then, to the CIA's DCI, he reveals the twist. Eva's microfilm was fake. He secured half the real legacy for the US, the KGB holding the rest. He nabbed Granin's Metal Gear blueprints too, a gift for America. A triple agent, Adam, Volgan's pawn, and a philosopher operative. He aims to resurrect their US faction, ever at the CIA's beck and call. The aftermath ripples. Big Boss earns hero status in both nations for Volgan's demise, but guilt over the boss drives him from Fox. Rykov, a rare Groznygrad survivor, loses his rank for soldier abuse, a fallout of Volgan's collapse. CIA official Hot Coldman, tied to the mission's planning, is exiled to Central America, punishment masked as promotion. Big Boss carries on, the boss's truth a silent burden, her legacy and his forever intertwined. And so the tale of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater draws to a close, a story that begins with a single man dropped into a jungle and ends with a legacy that reshapes the world. Snake's journey through the jungle is more than a mission of stealth and survival. It's a crucible of loyalty, betrayal, and sacrifice. From the virtuous mission's collapse to the final bullet fired in that field of red-stained flowers, we've witnessed a narrative that doesn't just entertain, it challenges. The boss's dream of a unified world, free of borders and ideologies, clashes against the harsh reality of the Cold War's machinations, embodied by Volgan's brute ambition and the philosopher's shadowy greed. Her death at Snake's hands isn't just a victory for one side, it's a tragedy that reverberates through history, branding her a villain while the truth festers in silence, known only to the man who becomes Big Boss. This is a story about the cost of duty. Snake emerges a hero to nations, yet he's left hollow, carrying the weight of a mentor's sacrifice and a mission built on lies. Eva's deception, Ocelot's triple game, and the philosopher's legacy reveal a world where trust is a luxury few can afford. Yet, amid the espionage and violence, there's a human core, moments of connection, like Johnny's idle chatter or the boss's tearful confession, that reminds us what's at stake beneath the geopolitics. Hideo Kojima crafts a tale that's as much about personal loss as it is about global stakes, asking us to question, what does it mean to serve a cause, to kill for it, to die for it? The Cold War rages on, but its scars linger with Snake, setting the stage for the legend of Big Boss and the saga that follows. For now, though, we leave Selenoyarsk behind, its jungles, its ruins, its ghosts, a chapter closed, but its echoes enduring. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into Metal Gear Solid 3. If you've enjoyed this journey through one of gaming's greatest stories, consider liking the video, subscribing for more, and letting me know in the comments what story we should tackle next. Until next time, keep exploring the tales that shape us, and I'll see you in the next one.